All right, I would like to call to order the October 6th, 2020 Columbia Borough Council work session. Could I have a roll call, please?
Councilperson Zink.
Here.
Councilperson Kaufman.
Here.
Councilperson Williams.
Here.
Councilperson Fitzgerald.
Here.
Councilperson Stevens.
Here.
Councilperson Littner.
Here.
Councilperson Brevard.
Here.
Mayor Lutz.
Here.
All right, do we have a member of the ministerial? All right, please rise for a moment of silent reflection. Todd, would you like to lead us in the pledge of the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
On October 6th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m., council held an executive session to review a grievance with the police union. Are there any additions, deletions, or reorganization of the agenda? No, yeah, I don't think there's anything we need to add. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilperson Kaufman, second by Councilperson Williams, to approve the agenda as published. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right. Citizen comment, non-agenda items only. There will be a 5-minute time limit per person. When you're called, please go to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. The first sign up we have is Rose Weaver.
My name is Rosemary Weaver. I live at 13 North 4th Street in Columbia. I'm here for really 2 issues. I don't know if I'll be able to get to the second one because this first one's really important. It's about the motion to eliminate the 4-meter parking spaces on the east side of North 4th Street as designated drop-off and pick-up points for CHI's Daycare Center located at 401 Locust Street. I'm the owner and operator of Rose's Deli, which is located on 13 North 4th Street. I've been in this business, in this location, since July of 2016. And at the time of my opening, I was the only business on this side of my block. In October of 2016, Family First moved across the street, actually Locust Street. Shortly after that, they started their business. 4 parking spaces were given to them, with various signage to prevent any of my customers from parking in front of their business. I myself have had the police call on me numerous times for parking in front of their business on street sweeping days. Many notes left on my car, and finally a sergeant was asked to speak to me about this issue, which at the time I explained to him that I live on the block and I do park on that side of the street on Mondays and Thursdays until the street sweeper goes. I do not park there any other days, and he stated he was fine with that and left. At no time before they took those spaces was myself or anyone in my business talked to from the borough and asked how I would feel about the taking of those 4 spaces, how it might affect my business. Well, it has affected it tremendously. We have numerous people come in and say that they would have stopped had there been parking spaces. The motion that I'm here about is the one that was granted on November the 12th of 2018 to CHI about taking 4 more spaces on Locust Street, or on 4th Street. I try every day not to fight with the neighbors, to get along with everybody. That's just how I am. But right now there's only 7 spaces from Locust Street to Avenue H. I park in one normally because I do deliver. We have a delivery van. Some of my workers park around the block, but we do have tenants on that block. And 2 people that work for me, one lives on the block There's 2 new people that have cars, so I have a car, my husband has a car. Needless to say, there's more than 7 people that park there. So if CHI is granted this motion, well, it has been granted, let me rephrase that. They were granted it. But I'm here to ask to rescind that because it's going to affect not only the people who live on that block, but my business as well. There's a new pharmacy across the street, which we see people daily parking on our block, which that's not a problem. But again, if we lose 4 spaces right there from Locust Street to the middle of 4th Street to Alley H, there's only going to be 3 available spaces. And I mean, that's not fair to any of the businesses. And I don't know if anybody else knows it, but like I said, I've been researching this and researching it and found out that it was passed on November 12th of 2018. And it's really going to be detrimental if that happens because they want the pink spaces from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. We're open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. So it really only gives me like a little 2-hour window Monday through Friday from 6 to 8 to have anybody parking in those 4 spots. Sorry. I wanted to read this whole thing, but I knew I would run long, so. I'm just asking for someone to listen to a small business in town. I don't have the funds or the means that these big corporations that are coming here do. I'm all about revitalizing Columbia as well. We've been trying to do that. We give food away daily. We don't make a big stink about it. We don't need accolades. We don't need praise from anybody. We do it because we can. And we're an important part of this community. We have people come from all over. We have radio commercials now, and people come from an hour away and tell us, oh my gosh, you don't know how much we love this sandwich. I'm proud of the Sam from Columbia, and I grew up here. And that when I was a little girl, I got to share a shifter with my grandmother. And now I'm able to pass this on to my kids, to their kids, hopefully, people from out of Columbia. And they'll come into town when they're at my business and say, what's there to do in Columbia? And we always suggest other businesses to check out, because I think we all should benefit from that, not just me. But if we lose 4 spaces, that's just going to be detrimental. I mean, absolutely detrimental to my business. Because like I said, now we have so many people, I'm sorry I'm emotional about this, because my business is my livelihood. It's what I take care of my family with. And since COVID hit, we have been down to about 50% of sales because people don't want to come in. We started delivering more. We have curbside now. Even though I can't put anything on the curb, we advertise it. We will run it out to your car to try to get more people to come. So I'm just asking if there's any possibility you guys could rethink that because they have a parking garage. I don't know anything about their business, but there's going to be a school and a daycare. Couldn't they possibly have a couple spaces on Locust Street since their doors are on Locust Street and try to just let us have a little bit of those spaces? And I also just wanted to mention that I don't know if you guys are all aware, but at the end of the month, Andy's is going to be closing. It's going to do like a huge vacancy for Columbia. I have already begun to try to think of increasing our product line to get more people that only walk a block away or half a block away can come here and maybe get some canned goods, some fresh produce. So I'm trying to come up with, alternatives to help the people from the high rises, the local people that don't have vehicles, that just need, something here and there. But that's already been in the works at my shop, and we're trying to make accommodations for that as well. So again, that's why I'm here, please, begging you guys to reconsider those 4 spaces because, we're losing businesses in town, like little small mom and pop shops, and, they're crucial to our economy, crucial. My business is crucial to my family. So that was the first thing I wanted to discuss and ask you guys just, please think about it. And, small businesses need more support now than ever, especially during the COVID. Yes.
Can you tell me again what your hours are?
Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m.
10 to 8.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm thinking about is, this is supposed to be pick up and drop off for daycare. I don't think that happens all day long, 6 to 6. I can see why the council can consider prior to your opening and possibly some, not like the schools, somewhere to get a caucus or like that there. Get to see each other and find out what the main flux of their traffic is going to be. But obviously not from 6 to 6. And I understand what you're saying.
Right, well, and there is something else, on that block, Jake, the old firehouse still has a major curb cut for the garage.
Yeah, the guy in there, he parks his vehicle in there and he.
Does he
that-
pull into there?
He pulls in and out of there, yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, I have seen that as well.
darn, cause I was thinking if we could remove the curb cut and we could probably get 2 spaces there.
There was a time when we were going to put meters there, and then you guys started using it.
Cause that's a tough block.
It is.
Are we legally allowed to rescind or put a motion on the floor to rescind or?
You could, I mean, you would amend that decision. I mean, it would be a motion to, to rescind that decision.
It wasn't an ordinance or resolution, it was just an action.
It was just a motion? Okay,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, if we can just have some,
Which, I mean,
have some research on that
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
got it.
see what we need to do and, maybe approach CHI and see what's going on there and, I mean, 'cause certainly we all have to live in this town together and we don't want anyone, taking it all. We all have to share.
When this happened, I recall, there was discussion about Locust Street. About using Locust Street. I think there's a parking space from up, I almost have to look at it again, from their driveway to the corner. Then there's 1 or 2 that would be adjacent to their building on Locust. Here, here.
Well, I can pull that up too. I found in the minutes where it says, consider a motion to eliminate 4-meter parking space on the east side of North 4th Street. And that is on the November 12th meeting. So that's where the decision took place. I'll go back and read the minutes and see if there's any discussion there.
But those spaces are still metered there, right?
Correct.
Yeah, the meters are still there, and there's nothing indicating at this point yet that there are no parking, correct?
No, I just wanted to mention it before the whole works went through, that they removed the parking meters, and then we were kind of just stuck with it again, there's just 3 spaces.
No, thank you for bringing it in, because I actually had it on my list to talk to Mark about as well, so.
Agreed. And
But
the other
thank
thing,
you.
if you don't mind me mentioning, is again, CHI, because they are our neighbor, their property line butts up against my building. They want to put a fence on the alley on 4th Street. Again, I don't have a problem with that, but I can then not maintain my window to keep it clean. I'm not asking to be on their property other than to just clean my window. At this point, I was told by Paul Paulson that I am not allowed on their property because we actually have a second egress that goes out into their parking lot, or their parking garage, that had been grandfathered for years and years and years to Mr. Eichhorn when he lived there and when he had his business there. Since they recently bought the lot and built this garage and everything, they want no one on that property. And I just was asking if there's any way we could, because they won't talk to me. So if there's any way we could come to some kind of resolution, maybe move the fence back a little bit just so I can keep my window clean, because during the construction, that window was covered with cobwebs and bugs. It was an eyesore. But because we were, the back door was completely closed off, we couldn't get to that window at all. It had a gate in the front, a gate in the back. So finally, when the construction was done, we were able to clean that window. Over the weekend, I repainted it because they didn't put the fence up, even though I agreed not to go on their property. I had to do something because the window was filthy. I just am fearful that in the next few months, once the fence goes up and that window becomes cluttered with bug debris and cobwebs, that we might start getting a code violation because I'm not maintaining the building. And it would be an eyesore from the street, because it's right there on the left-hand side looking at the building. Well, right there, you can see the window, yeah.
So it's this side window here,
Yes.
and they're proposing to put a fence across here.
Yes.
I don't see why you can't move it back.
Well, that's one thing. And the other thing, what about the access? If you can see back here in this picture, there's an awning here, there's a door here.
Yeah.
Is this a sole access to the unit back there?
No.
Okay.
In the front of the building,
So you come
there's
in
a
here?
door, not that door. Can I just step over and show you?
Yeah, please.
Sure.
This is my parking door right here.
Okay.
If you look straight in, that's the front door to the,
Deli.
actual deli. So I can go in this way, up steps to my apartment. We just like this in the back, in the past, because we could bring supplies and so forth in, but My greatest concern was if there would be a fire, if we would be able to exit onto their property. They said absolutely not. Paul Paulson told me that I would have to either come out here onto this roof. So if people are in my business, we cannot exit there. They have to take them upstairs to my apartment and come either out on this roof, or there's a flat roof on the property, on the backside of this property. We could all go out to there and be rescued.
Really?
But if there's an active shooter in my building, I was allowed to go out that door, but not a fire.
If there's a fire, you get out of that building and leave.
Well, that's kind of what I thought, but I'm just like, I didn't know if I should come because I was afraid I might receive some type of retaliation, because I had asked Mr. Paulson when he was out of business on Friday if I could record the conversation, because Richard wanted to take it to his attorney to make sure it was legitimate. And he said to me, if we record it, he was going to condemn my apartment for not having a second egress, and that's where the conversation would stop and he would leave. So at that time, we had to just agree to what he said, because, I mean, who wants to be told you're gonna have to move, you're gonna condemn your apartment because I just want to report a conversation that you should be legitimate in knowing what you're saying, like.
Right. But we have heard the concerns and we're gonna work through this.
Okay, I'm sorry to take so long.
No, that's
Thank you.
okay. That's what we're here to do, is to listen. And Mark, you have all that down. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next sign up we have is Frank Daltrick.
Thank you. Frank Daltrick, 1001 Aaronville Pike. Pam, another good movie that maybe we could possibly get would be Walking Tall. I don't know how many ever seen it, but Joe Don Baker plays that part in there. It's based on a true story. It's a really good movie.
Inspirational.
My next issue is, if I could go to Joe Grenier, if I could go to the police chief and ask him the status now that Mr. Grenier has passed away, if I could ask the status between the lawsuit between the borough and Mr. Grenier.
So that, we came to a settlement on that, and the very short version, so you all understand, is there was a disagreement and a lawsuit filed to look at how the pension was calculated for Chief Grenier. We worked through that and we came up with a settlement. The settlement was signed and executed about 2 weeks ago, I think it was.
Yes.
So that has been settled.
Okay, I'm glad something got settled for the future of these issues that we had. This went on for years.
Yeah.
Why it did, I don't know. I don't know which side was part of that. But I don't want to take up a lot of time here, because I only got 5 minutes. I had asked a question of a council person, and I didn't get an answer. They didn't get back to me. So I had to bring my question to council and the mayor. But I'd like to know if we have anything in place for any problems that might arise from the upcoming election. I don't want it to look like Lancaster with burning cars and all that. I want to know if we have something in place, if somebody is working on something. I'm not asking to know what it is. I just want to know that if it arises, yes, we were on top of it.
So yes, police chief and I had that conversation today, and the plan is being put together to make sure the town is safe during elections. Absolutely.
Okay. And last question. I'd like to know the status of Walnut Street, 7th and 8th, that was just done. Well, I think the utilities all got done. I think there was an overlay or scratch code. I don't know what happened, but where do we go from here with that?
And Jake, if you want to fill in after this, we ran out of time, and the paving company we had lined up to do the work, we kept putting them off, partly because of the COVID delays and get everything done. We ran out of time this year. So Jake and his crew just simply put a scratch coat down just to smooth it out over the winter, and they put hot mix in the sidewalk just to create a safe pass so people can shovel the sidewalks and we can get done. So that we'll be repaving it properly in the spring then. The company we hired will come back in the spring and then we'll get it paved in the spring.
Okay, and this was done with a bond? These two blocks were done, or am I wrong?
They were done, but they're funded under the bond fund, yeah.
That's what I was wondering. Do you remember the amount?
No.
Okay. Not important anyway, thank you.
Yep.
All right. And now, as we go through our work meeting here, members of the public, if you want to comment or anything, raise your hand so I can acknowledge you. Go to the podium and state your name and address for the record, and then you can participate there. The first item we have is the budget review session for the Fund 18 and liquid fuels. The reason we're doing it here, I know there's a note further down on the thing. The actual budget meeting for October was scheduled for October 15th. That we were going to do with the Fund 18 and liquid fuels, but just to make sure that we had all staff available, we're doing it tonight. We're doing it tonight so that, so then we won't have to do a meeting on the 15th. So we're hopefully getting rid of another meeting there. So Kyle, you want to take it away?
Yes, thank you very much. So definitely Fund 18, Fund 35 are the, I guess we'll say the lesser of the funds that we have, more straightforward rather. So it's the first proposal for both those funds, Capital Fund 18 and Liquid Fuels Fund 35. We can start with Fund 18. Same format that we saw with the general fund. We see 2018 and 19 actuals, 2020 budget, current budget, and the actuals as of September 13th. Until we get around closing September 2020, I'm going to leave those actuals as is. So next month we'll see an update there with the 2020 actuals across all funds. As you can see, for Fund 18, the transfer from fund balance currently is $734,032. We're seeing some activity with the LASA bond that's going to be coming out starting in 2021. Traditionally with Fund 18, this is where we used to take vehicles, if approved, office furniture, any kind of equipment and software that we may need across all departments, and that is definitely the case for 21 as well. So looking at the revenue, the green section at the top, once again, we have a fund balance. Immediately below that is the interest. So as of today, I have $80,000 budgeted in there. That is a combination of low interest rates and, of course, us using up our fund balance as we progress through the years. So that's going to come down from 2020, about $20,000, or exactly $20,000, but we'll keep an eye on that as 2020 progresses. Then moving into our expenditures, the red section there at the bottom. We can go line by line. We can do that if you'd like. If anyone has any questions, of course, with the notations on the far right, I'm trying to fill everybody in with some of the methodology behind where I'm getting some of these numbers. As you can see, the enterprise vehicles. So what portion of the upfit costs were not rolled into the financing, you're going to see here on Fund 18. So we have police, codes, and of course public works here and the amounts that are listed. We have some office furniture as well, both for the admin side and the police side. As is true with the general fund, I am keeping the same account structure. So 402 would be admin. In the capital fund, just as we see the general fund, 410 would be police. 409 is buildings. 413 would be codes. 430 would be highway. And then towards the bottom of the expenses there, of course, you see our lease, Wells Fargo lease, which is going to be done in 2022. And of course, our bond payments. So the Fund 30 bond payments have always come out of Fund 18 as well. That's the principal or dash rather, full bank. Both the principal and the interest, we have to break those up. So short of going line by line, does anyone have any questions on this fund as a proposal currently stands? To go along with this, this fund, the police department was kind enough to put together some detailed items that they're asking for. That's a supplementary packet here. And I actually stole that too, so thank you, Jack, for some of the desks. We're looking at the same items ourselves. So that'll give you a little bit more detail on the, again, the police items, excluding the enterprise, the truck battle modems, the furniture, and of course, the parking enforcement application, software, rather. So once again, does anybody have a question on this fund, this budget? Any of the line items, revenue or expense?
I do.
Sure.
I'm a little concerned with I guess the budget for enforcement officer parking ticket systems when we haven't finalized a solution yet. I mean, that seems to me like we're just, you know what I mean, we're
We're on the same page as exactly something I wanted to bring up this evening. This is a conversation starter.
okay, good.
Yeah,
Because I was like, what the, I was kind of blown away there.
So I understand that there's a committee that's been formed and planning on discussing this issue moving forward. So if this is premature, we can take it off, or if it's something that your committee is going to address in 21, we can leave it in. It's entirely up to you. But we do need to give consideration to advancing our party enforcement.
Yes.
To bring it in line with those technology that's out there.
Yes.
It's going to be most beneficial to the department. If we can eliminate the manual entry of tickets and bring that out, screen times.
And the trunk mounted modems, what are,
Currently, we have a freight using company, a product we use at an airport in the vehicles, and we upgraded to the latest version. And it still hasn't resolved the issues that we had with reception. And the only answer that we have, which other police departments have gone through, is a trunk mounted modem. It is expensive technology, but the officers went around the car and said they had to stop, fill booms to data, and after the enter, it's an officer safety issue, it's time consuming, extensive stops and times, and it's a great source of frustration for them.
So we met with Stephen Madonna from Borough.
Yes.
And this is the product he had discussed with us, saying that other police departments are going to this because they are hearing more and more of the problems we're having with just the air card, which is normally just a USB adapter that gets plugged into the laptop, and those don't have the antenna strength that a trunk mount would. So what we thought is maybe get one or two, try them in like the command vehicle and the sergeant's vehicle, so that we have it out there, so support's available. And if it starts working, then we can look and see if this is a good idea and we want to expand it out into other vehicles. So it is a problem. They're having communication problems, and we're trying to eliminate that as much as possible.
and if we, I'm not gonna say if, I'm gonna say when we do end up getting everyone outfitted with body cams, that will help also because it will ensure our connections, correct? Like,
Well, this technology is allowing officers to get access to the software.
okay,
They pull a stop individual. We currently use a product from TEG to run it.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's primarily what it is. If we use a product called JNet as well as through the state, so we want to do some research on the individual that they have stopped, you part of investigating.
this is just a way to boost the signal to the internet.
What it's doing is allowing them to do the job.
Yeah.
Like I said, the current technology not accurate.
I'm probably a good lead in body cam. Are we going to put that in 20, 21?
You mean 21 or 22?
Put it in 21.
That's not in here.
Yeah, at this point in time, we're not certain what the impact is going to be. So I'll have some additional information to bring forward to the council. If you recall, the initial conversation was such that we didn't believe we need to put any money forward. But I think we're starting to back that on that.
It was nothing, and I think it was 1,000, and now it's a percentage.
Correct. Right. It'll be 50% of the match, I believe, but I'm not even sure what that's going to be or what the financial impact is.
Well, one thing I did notice is that the camera systems, we always have 50,000 budgeted, and we don't ever seem to be spending that, so.
But we are, actually. I had a conversation with Kyle recently on this. What I've noticed is our expenditure has actually been taken from the budget, the active budget. So what I need to do is get with him and have that transferred. I would estimate at this point in time that we've probably spent somewhere about half of the money that we had placed in capital. So it's probably around 25,000. We've added cameras, we've replaced a few cameras as well. So it's a line item issue, and we need to have that corrected.
Would our match to the grant be considered capital, Carl?
Towards the bottom cams?
Yeah.
Yes, it would. Absolutely.
So there's a chance that we may not have to change that line item number.
Correct. Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. When we get more information, we'll load it in, hopefully sooner than later. But even if it's next year, you know, we'll be okay with that. We'll get it loaded in at that first quarter end.
But as it looks here, we've reduced the expenses from capital by about roughly half.
Yes.
We also lost about $1 million in revenue, right?
Well, the last,
Not too much.
yeah, the last bond,
Yeah.
or the bond rather that last is kind of, you know, was taken over. That is no longer going to be factored in 21. So it's not that we're losing revenue, we're just losing that accounting record of them making payment on our debt. So we're not losing revenue. From the accounting standpoint, we're losing that revenue line item, but we're not losing money coming in. And if you look down at the bottom, there's also
passed
money
through.
going out. Yeah, there's money going out that's coming off, both the principal and the interest at the bottom there, so it's a wash. Yeah.
I mean, now, the reality is, some of that money is transferred to the general, some of the expenditures are transferred here from this fund to the general fund because of the lease payments for enterprise. So that's some of it, but, yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's good news, by the way. I mean, that coming up with our, you know, us lightening that debt and that coming out of the budget for 18. Great news. Very good. Yeah. Any questions on any of the other? Again, we will see this fund again. This is of course for a proposal for Fund 18 and 35. So if anything comes up after tonight or as things are added, the body cams, for example, you'll see those ones again.
Yeah, because even if we have, you know, a rough estimate or, you know, a rough kind of thought, even if we put in like 25% or something like that, just so we can see it as a placeholder.
Sure. Yeah, we do have an estimate at this point in time. It's around 47,000 for everything, and that includes about 20 body cam units and a server as well.
Okay.
Because our existing server will not support adding, you know, the additional hardware.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's around 47,000.
Can you explain to me, you said the grant was sort of regional, right, for the body cams?
Yes,
More than one municipality, it's not just
yes, we
us.
were blessed with an opportunity where neighboring jurisdiction, or actually an agency that we already partnered with on a regional crash team, had located an opportunity or developed an opportunity where 5 agencies out of 6 are submitting for this grant. What we found is that they're more apt to issue monies for regional efforts than individual efforts, is my understanding. So we also have to, each agency is paying $1,000 for a grant writer to help submit the documentation. It's quite involved.
So
And there
has
are
that-
multiple grants as well. So it's
Has
a
that
state
part
and a
been-
federal grant that's being applied for.
So
I'm
has
sorry.
that been written and submitted?
What I did is, last week we had a deadline, Friday, to submit our documentation. With the help of Kyle, he and I were able to gather data for them, and we got our paperwork in on time.
So is the grant, the 50% you're saying, is that based on our 20? Because each department, I would think, would have a different amount.
It's going to be 50% of the match.
Of the
So-
whole?
Right, right. And I'm not quite sure because there was some uncertainty. Initially, when the initial agency spoke with the grant writer, it was their impression that the grants would cover everything entirely, which would be wonderful. And now they're sort of walking that back, indicating that the grant, I guess the state grant will only cover half of the matching.
So does each department that's in this have a match? Is that?
That is correct, yes.
Of the same amount or different?
No, it would be different. It would
Okay.
vary because all agencies aren't looking at the same product, first and foremost.
Okay.
And secondly, some of the agencies have 35 officers.
That's
so
what
they're
I was
going
trying to
order
figure
more.
out.
That's correct.
So
yes.
that is just our,
Yeah, and the other side of that too is there is a maximum amount, which I think is $400,000 to $500,000. So all this has to factor in. But it's quite complex, and I think the money's going to be well worth it as far as the grant writer, their involvement.
and then beyond this, we will still have an annual fee for,
We would,
okay.
yes,
All right, thank you.
yes.
All right, does anyone else have any other questions? All right. 18's good, huh? 18,
18.
no more questions on 18?
I'll go ahead and build in that 47,000, so we see that next time as information comes in. Again, we'll update that accordingly. So if you want to go to the next page, this is our liquid fuels fund, Fund 35. So again, the biggest change here for 2021, we are moving the street lighting and traffic lighting electrical to this fund. That is both 35,434,001 and 002. I'm happy to report, even with moving in that substantial amount of money, we are still feeding the fund balance reserve for Fund 35. It amounts just shy of $14,000. To be exact, it's $13,892. Still good news. Again, we're feeding into that fund balance reserve. It's always a good position to be in. You can see at the bottom, we had a lease that's going to be up this year, 2020, so that's dropping off the bottom 2 accounts there. Beyond that, nothing new to report in this account. We're getting the highway liquid fuel funds in. We're getting the turnback money in from the state as well. Interest, once again, I'm going to keep a very close eye on this as 2020 progresses. I'd like to put more in there than anything, but depending on interest rates and performance, I'll adjust that accordingly. On the expense side, the bottom there, of course, in red, once again, the same issue, the same items that we're used to seeing: the snow and ice removal, traffic control, ADA curb construction, highway supplies, aggregate and other, and the street pavement projects. And that will be 2021 when we get into next year. Right now it says 2020.
I was going to ask that.
Yeah. I'm not going to change that. We could set up a whole nother account, but just to keep it consistent, I might just take out the year altogether. So again, the only big change here is the electric. Other than that, still good news. We're feeding that fund balance reserve. Does anybody have any questions on this fund, this proposal? Yes, ma'am.
Is it true that we can expect a decline in liquid fuels due to COVID?
So that's up on the top side. We already got our letter from the state.
Yes.
So we know what our estimated allocation is going to be. And so we dropped 10%, I think it is.
Correct, yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, rounded 10%. We went from 275,802 in this year to 248,982 expected in 2021. So 10% decrease there.
It's not that bad.
No, not as bad as people thought.
Yeah,
Much worse.
that's not as bad as,
Across the board, we have not seen a lot of negative effects, thankfully. So again, good news report across revenue and expense in this fund. Does anybody else have any other questions?
yeah, where was the electrical usage coming from before?
This year and prior, it was coming out of the general fund, 01433, I believe. It was coming out of one of our, I don't have the general fund with me. It was coming out of our 01433 accounts.
But general fund?
Yes.
General fund, yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, whatever we can get out of the general fund and get it to the right place,
Yes, just like the capital funds.
Yeah, is
Absolutely. Big difference.
preferable.
Yep. Absolutely.
It's a big chunk.
And you said, once we set a plan for this, for the paving projects, we'll have a better idea of,
We'll plug those in.
Yes.
yeah, I thought, didn't we have, like a rolling plan? Like a 5-year plan or something like that?
Yeah. There's a plan in place. I mean, that for the most part, that leads into that methodology, the far right there, it's static 100,000. So unless that information changes, unless we expect that to really drop off or pick up, it's going to be 100,000, until I hear otherwise. But yes, there is a plan out there for the next 5 years.
How many more ADA curbs do we have to go? A lot?
Next year, we're gonna get into quite a few of some of these intersections and stuff that will be paved through. It's gonna require 4, for each one of the projects, so. There's quite a few out there.
One thing that, I've kind of been taking notice to, and I don't know where this falls in the thing, but if we need money for it, it can come from liquid fuels. And that is, street signs that need.
Yes, I was just gonna bring that up. Sorry.
Street signs that need some help. We got lots of pink out there, and some that are nothing more than shadows almost. Can that come out of this fund?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, and actually, we've been kind of working at replacing some of them as we go. Some of the big damage, but they can all come out of the
Can we make a line item for that and maybe just put some like placeholder funds in, just so we know, and that way it's also on our radar that, hey, this is a priority and we want to make use of this. I mean, I don't know how other people feel.
We're supposed to replace all the street signs, aren't we? With the green kind?
Well, the green ones, but I mean, even ones that have, like, street maintenance, there are some of those that are really bad, and, all, not just the street name signs, but,
Well, concerning the street name signs, I mean, there's a mandate that we need to change this, right? Upgrade from the historic
They
one.
need to be upgraded to reflect.
So does that,
Have the capital and road signs and stuff. So that's something we've been working in. We just did this rollout just start hitting them all, just not hitting them, as, they're being replaced.
When's that mandate up?
When's
the drop dead date?
I think it's, was in effect, I think it's 17 or something is when it started. I'm not sure what the drop date and date for that is. Now, as far as the street maintenance signs, it's something we work that stuff in. Typically over the winter months as we'll get out and start replacing a bunch of them. They're just not figured out.
Oh, yeah.
Especially depends on which direction it is.
I don't know. In your
All right.
opinion?
We got gremlins. All right, anyone else have questions on this fund? You good? All right,
More to come. Thank you much.
thank you.
Thank you.
That's one less meeting this month. Now, and anyone else, I'm sorry, I didn't see any hands, and no hands? Oh. Okay. Next. Discussion on code section 130, the historic district. You know, I was talking, you know, Mark and I were talking this morning, and I said, you know, I don't even kind of know where to begin at this point, but I think where we have to start, before we get down in the weeds and start talking about the nitty gritty of exactly what all we think needs changed, I think we have to start at the most basic level. And that is, what do we all see as the future of the historic district? Do we want this ordinance to stay as it is? You know, is there changes? Do we want to, you know, do we still support the historic district? Is it time to say we've had so many different things that these are the specific buildings we want to keep, we want to maintain as they are, and the rest we can be a little more lenient on? I mean, now is the time for us to make these decisions.
Madam President, if I may offer you a suggestion. I thought you were going to go down through the ordinance and discuss changes, okay? And I shudder to think of that. My thought to you, and my suggestion to council would be, first off, I am very much in favor of continuing the historic district. I wouldn't have fought to keep it in first place if I wasn't. But my suggestion would be put a hardboard in place, just like planning, zoning, other boards. And then it can be a combination of a hardboard, council members or whatever, to go down through that ordinance, take a look at it, make suggested changes, if it's necessary or whatever, and then bring it back to council for what final consideration. It's the same as that you would do if you're looking at the zoning ordinance, or if you're looking at the planning, or looking at your comp plan, where you would put a group together, preferably the hard, and as I said, zoning, planning, put the group together and hash it out, and then bring it to the floor and act on it.
Mm-hmm.
I think council could go through this thing, line item or whatever, for the rest of the week, and still not arrive at a decision.
Well, right, but it doesn't, it does no good to seat a board if we don't have
Consensus to continue
to
the ordinance.
continue the ordinance.
Well, I would say start there.
So that's what I'm saying, you know, I mean, we've got we have a starting point here. I mean, it's unfortunate that it has come to this, but I think that this is, you know, this is an opportunity for us to look at it, you know, what are we doing? Because obviously I do believe that until we have these questions answered and we know what direction we're gonna go in, it's gonna be really hard to get anyone that's gonna wanna sit on a board that they don't really know, you know, they have no direction.
Well, I think Mark and I had a discussion on it. I believe one of the problems was from the very beginning, and I'm not saying anybody was wrong, it was just a matter of the way it progressed, that the historic district ordinance was never administered the way it should have been. And I think that was part of some of the inconsistencies that have been noted, the allegations that this person did this and this one was allowed to do that and I had to do this. The way I read the ordinance, the way I understand the ordinance, and I'm probably as guilty as anybody else for not saying, hold it once, you're doing this wrong. Every action taken by the Historic Architectural Review Board, the HARB, they're a recommending body. It should have been moved, any action to accept or deny, or even administrative approvals, maybe not administrative approvals, should have been passed up to you guys. And then you either agree or disagree, and you can do that basically on a consent agenda method if it's all ones that no one has a question on. But I think every one, and the only thing that ever came to council, and in my time I think it might have been maybe 3 in this whole period of this ordinance, only 3 I think ever got to council. That's amazing. But yet you heard a lot of conversations that the borough wouldn't let me do this, HARB wouldn't let me do that. Well, it never got to the council to make that decision. And I think there was a lot of misgivings on the whole thing. I believe you should keep the ordinance, administer the ordinance the way it was meant to be administered, just as I said.
So I've been checking with some other boroughs and communities that have HARBs set up. And Evan and I went through this when we initially pulled out the enabling legislation from the state that empowers HARBs. And the state very specifically wrote in the enabling legislation that the final decisions are by the governing body. And they did that for a reason. I think part of it is because these districts can be rather controversial and difficult to administer. So you want to have your elected officials as the final say in that. And in our ordinance, and I don't know why, but I think probably honestly for efficiency's sake, we looked at the fact that any approval could go right to empower the president of Borough Council to sign off on the certificate of appropriateness and therefore issue the building permit on anything that was approved by HARB, and any denials would come back to you to make a final decision. The problem with that, and that's what we saw in the recent case, is it sets up council to have to decide, are we going to support our HARB board or not, rather than being the final decision making consistently, and you guys would be approving and or denying any application. So I think that created some of this tension that says, oh, well, you guys should have just trusted us, and when we brought a decision to you, we've thought through it, which they really did, and they really do look at things thoroughly. But in the end, you guys had the full right and authority to make a decision up or down on those cases. So the purpose of tonight's discussion really is to get some clear direction, because I am fully ready to launch into making some major improvements to how we do our historic district. And I think there are some changes in the ordinance and some other guiding documents that we can put together that'll help us make these decisions. If that's the direction we want to go, and we want to say, you know what, our historic district is important to us, we see the value in this, therefore let's keep it, let's build a better model, if you will, and move forward. If that's the direction we're going, I'm fully ready to do that.
I'd like to say,
You're right, it says right here, the Borough Code Officer will notify Borough President in writing on the recommendations necessary to issue a certificate, so she can approve anything that he's saying yes or no to.
Yes, if they're saying yes to. If HARB recommends a denial, the applicant has three choices actually. One, they can accept the denial and go away. Two, they can change their proposal and come back to HARB saying, well, you didn't like the type of siding I was putting on my house. I'll agree to change that siding type, and then HARB says, okay, now we can approve it. Or you can take your denial and go to council and say, HARB recommends denial, would you approve it? Which is the case we had just a few weeks ago.
But what was happening was people were getting denials and grumbling about it, and either sneaking it in or not doing it or whatever have you. And council never knew about it till it got to be a flashpoint that you heard, they wouldn't let me do this, they wouldn't let me do that, when it would have been your decision as to whether they could or not. But yet, people were complaining about the historic district and the ordinance, and it never went the way it was supposed to go.
I don't understand what's going on right now. I don't think the vote the other week was a mandate on HARB.
No, I don't think so.
It was a vote on rail.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody that thinks that we don't support HARB or want to change it or move on or whatever, we followed our codes. And that's simply it. So, I mean, I can't speak for everybody up here, but I think we ought to just do a straw poll right now and just say, either in favor of HARB, you're not in favor of HARB. We have an ordinance in place. I'm not saying it doesn't, changes may be needed, but I don't understand this to sit there discussing whether we're gonna have HARB or not. Let's do a vote and move on.
I don't think we should continue HARB because of the inconsistent enforcement. I just feel it's wrong for some people to be allowed to do certain work and others can't. And I've heard this from members of the community as well. I fully enjoyed HARB. I attended long before I decided to run for council. And I went through the HARB process, of course, for my own home. And I do feel we should have a historic district and we should have a HARB, but I don't see how we can continue that in light of the enforcement issues we have with that. I just think it's not fair.
I mean, we're working through the enforcement issues and we're putting things in place that are going to hopefully, not just in the historic district, but prevent our enforcement issues all the way around. We're putting a system in place that is going to give us a better connection between zoning and codes, giving better direction to codes, to code enforcement. I think will definitely help. And when we set that tone, this is the way, you know, I do think that will happen. I mean, I have no doubt that our enforcement issues, you know, will resolve themselves with what we're doing. Unfortunately, we can't point to anything right now to say it will, but we have to trust that we've identified enforcement as the issue. We're putting things in place to resolve that. We have to trust And, you know, we have to believe that Mark is doing everything he can to correct those issues. And, I mean, that's all we can do for now.
Well, I for one believe the historic district is absolutely imperative to the success and the future of our borough. Just look back at our history. This close to being the capital of the United States, integral to the Underground Railroad system back in the 1800s. Look at just on Locust Street, all the banks made out of marble and granite. There was money in this town, there was business, there was history here, and all of that stuff was worth preserving. Not just the architecture, but the history itself. I voted to expand the Harb District last council. I think the historic, I live in a historic district and proud of it. And I take great care to try to upgrade my home in ways that honor, let me get rid of this thing, honor the integrity of the original construction. I do it myself because I want it to be done right. Can we make changes to the ordinance? I believe so. I think what happened last time was exactly what Mark is saying. Inconsistencies in the enforcement. And interpretation of the ordinance. There is an area of the ordinance that allowed for exemptions. Some interpreted it different than others. We're not always going to agree on things, and for different reasons. What we can't use the ordinance for and the Harb for is a means to punish people either. That can't be done. It's about what the ordinance says and what is allowed and what isn't, and how we determine yes or no answers to the ordinance on a case-by-case basis. I believe that we can resolve this. I think that we can get through this, and I would make an impassioned plea to all those Harb members that resigned to reconsider, come back. Nobody is mad at Harb, and we want the historic, at least I do. I want the historic district, and I respect every single person that's served on the board. Didn't agree with the decision. It could have went 4-3 the other way. And would I have quit council for it? Probably not. It's the way it went. Please come back. Please reconsider. I think I think it would be a great moment for us all in healing and unity, and a really great step forward in resolving this Harb ordinance issue that we're talking about right now. And let's talk about those changes that we suggested. I'm in favor, all that to say, I'm in favor of the historic district. Let's continue the conversation.
So when I was down in Florida, we ran into a situation in Lake Worth Beach that is extremely similar. The historic districts down there were causing a lot of angst among the property owners. There was accusations of inconsistent application of the ordinance, inconsistent enforcement. So we took time and energy, and one of the things I wanted to discuss briefly tonight too is, if we go so far as to become recognized by the state, and actually it's a federal program called a Certified Local Government, a CLG, that provides grant money to communities to do additional work. Down in Florida, we were a certified local government, so we went after grant money and got it, and hired a consultant and put together design guidelines. And what these design guidelines did is, I'll just jump to the table of contents here quick. And it's a little small, hard to see, but we went through all of our historic districts and looked at all of the architectural styles that were in the community, and broke those styles down into a level of detail that provided some clarity as to what you were really looking for. So if I jump down to one of the style guides, you'll see that we take a architectural style of like a wood frame vernacular house, very common throughout Florida. And we explain what that means, what's the history behind it, why was this house built, why was it important to the style and the neighborhood of the community. And then we said, okay, what are the character defining features of that style? You have front dormers, you have a certain pitch on the roof, you have airspace underneath the floor for ventilation down there. You had this is where the term the Florida room came from. You had a front room that was enclosed but with screens. It wasn't air conditioned, it was everything. It was just a place to come sit. The orientation of the house was important so that you got sun during certain times, and so that you weren't baking in the evening when you're trying to sit outside. You had shade from your house and stuff. So they looked at all these things, and so we looked at each style that was in the community, broke it down, and then when you get into it, you say, okay, in that style house, these are the types of windows that were common in that style house. So if you're going to replace your windows, you can pull up this guide, say, okay, I need a 4/1 window, I need to have a wood frame, I need to fit in this style, so you know what you're going after, and it takes away the appearance of being subjective on these different things and provides some clear guidelines for the residents to say, okay, now I understand better what I'm doing. And we went from having elected officials having a very similar discussion like this, saying, let's dissolve all 6 historic districts and get rid of them because it's causing too much problem, we're just getting frustrated, to now even today, they hardly hear a thing because residents will come in. We also put together, and I didn't download it, but we put together an education guide for all the residents, and every homeowner in the historic district got a copy of this. And this explains how to use the design guidelines, and then provides other information like site planning, how to landscape your property, what kind of fence looks nice with your house. We didn't regulate those things, but provided guidance for them. We provided guidance on how to hurricane-proof your house, things that are relevant down there. Going through that effort, which took us about 1.5 years, turned around the entire historic district, changed the character of it. We went to way too many night meetings, meeting with the residents, explaining this to them. And now, yes, you occasionally run into some difficulties. Occasionally you're still going to have a project that runs into some questions. But now, instead of just basing it on someone's interpretation of the Secretary of the Interior design guidelines and suggestions, to some clear guidance, here's what you want to do, here's how we're going to do it, here's what we're going to regulate. And I'll say 85% of those issues and difficulties went away. I think this is where we need to get to. Let's invest in time and the money. And I agree with a lot of you that our history is too important in this community. Our architecture is tied to that history in a lot of ways. I want to keep preserving it. I want to keep protecting it, but in a way that doesn't punish people for living in a historic district, but adds value to their home. Done right, and Evan asked me this question earlier, does a historic district help? National studies, and if you want to see them, I'll pull them up and I'll send them out to you guys. National studies have shown that a historic district, protected well, done right, adds value to the property and will only serve to increase property values in that community. Because people then go down the street, there's a feel to it, there's a character when you walk down the street. You realize, okay, this is a cool old town, this is something I want to live in, people will move there. It adds value. So I am 100% going forward, if you guys so direct, and we will build this ourselves, a very good historic preservation program that will heal some of these wounds from the past, help us move past the poor enforcement, the inconsistent enforcement, which I don't disagree with, and allow us to, I would love to go so far as to have an award-winning historic district here in this community. I think we can do that. It's going to take work, it's going to take time, but to me it's worth the effort. There's too much here that's worth preserving.
Now, you showed that house there. That was designated the whole property, correct? Where Columbia, it's from the areas and nothing else.
So we had two, I think I understand your question.
You regulated the whole house.
We regulated the exterior of houses that we define as a contributing structure to the district. So if you had a very, very historic house that wasn't just 50 years old, but was 50 years old or older, was a great representation of the historic architecture and had historical connection to the community specifically. The first mayor of Lake Worth lived there, or someone significant lived there, then those were contributing structures, and we regulated we say 4 sides. There are certain things on the back that every historic planner will agree that you can't see it from the street, it's not visible from the street. We don't regulate that. Non-contributing structures in a historic district, it may be a similar style, but has been changed over time. Additions have been put on it, so it took away the original historic character, et cetera, et cetera. Those we only regulated what you can see from the street, like we do here. So those are some of the things that we can look at. How much of the house, and every historic district, so we're clear, only regulates the exterior. We don't regulate the interior. We don't look at interior renovations and remodels in a historic district. You look at the facade. You look at the outside. So that's something that we can look at, is how much of the structure do we regulate and how? That's a good question.
Yeah, keeping it?
Keep it.
Yes.
Keep it? Yes?
Yes.
I'll say keep it since I live in it, but I do want to see a change in the enforcement.
I
I
think I just heard a volunteer to sit on this committee to help us rewrite the code, if I heard that correctly. I totally agree, and I would like to get some people who live in the district who are passionate about it. I don't know, I won't throw any names out, Todd and Sharon, that would be willing to maybe help us look at this and build a good system that's going to work.
You, Sharon. I'd sit on it with you, Sharon. I'd sit on that board with you.
You have to be qualified, you have to be an electrician or live in a historic district. And so you all know, there's a group of us that are meeting with some of the former members of the harbor board tomorrow night to discuss this with them, to see if they'd be willing to rescind their resignations and stay on the board. So we are actively pursuing that as well right now.
But if we are keeping it and we're going to move forward with the historic district, just throwing this out there to everyone that lives in the historic district, chances are we are going to need at least a few new members
Absolutely.
of
Yep.
this board. If you are interested, please contact
me.
Contact Mark. Let him know that
Anybody.
you're interested. You know, we've got a lot of building here to do, and we want to make sure that we do what's in the best interest of the community. And you know, if you have a desire to serve your community, come on out. We would love to have you.
And you don't need to be an expert in historic architecture. You just have to, and most people who join these boards are not. We have experts on there. We need people that are just passionate to serve and learn.
Right.
And we'll train them.
Yep. And yeah, we'll worry about making sure we have all of the necessary experts, so to speak.
Absolutely. And in terms of the details of the work in process, you're right, Mayor, there's never intention to go down it line by line tonight. I'll get together with a select few. We'll come up with some recommendations and bring it back to full council to work through in a workshop soon.
I would hope that, first I would hope all the former members of HARP decide to come back and work for the borough. But I would hope that once you get a group together, or at least a working amount of them, that they be included in going down through that ordinance.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And in the interim, what are we doing as far as applications and so forth?
So we are still processing all the applications. As we've communicated before, Borough Council will be sitting in at the next HARB meeting, which I believe is on the 21st?
Yes, it's Wednesday the 21st.
Wednesday the 21st. If we can get the other members back and or recruit some new members, we'll hope to have it in place as soon as possible so that hopefully by November, you guys are done sitting in as a HARB board and we will have them back doing their job again. If we have to extend another month, we will, but I want to get as quickly as we can back to having a designated HARB board. The process will stay the same as we've done, generally the same, as we've done in the past, in that we will stick with the current ordinance that we have, which allows, if HARB makes a recommendation of approval, that approval is administratively signed off by the president of Borough Council, and the certificate of appropriateness is issued, and the building permit is issued. If we want to, we will look as a team, if we want to change that, if we want all decisions to come here, if we want to keep a portion of that, we'll go through all the mechanics of the process and bring a full recommendation back. So that would be the plan.
I mean, as it is now, the consultant would finish up her paperwork and everything and put them in my bin, and then Deb would send me an email and say, hey, there's stuff in your bin to sign when you get down, and I'd come down on my lunch and sign them, so. So as not to hold it up, hold, projects up.
Are there applications pending?
Yes.
Yes.
We have 8 for the 21st, and we have, I don't know the number right now. We have more coming in for the November meeting. The 8 we have coming up, I believe that Suzanne had done her review on all of those, so we'll have the advantage of her expertise on those. Going forward, we will review them and get a recommendation to you guys as a staff report to evaluate these projects.
Has someone been selected to do the evaluating?
Not yet. No. I've reached out to PHMC to see if there's a list of people who are qualified to do this, and it's somewhere in the area, or even close by, that we can get information to them electronically and have them review it. We will do that.
All right. Anything else on the historic? Yes, Mr. Douter.
I will hit my 3 minutes or plus. Frank Doutrick, 1001 Ironville Pike. Mark, just to give you an example, you heard a store owner stand up here and say if she recorded their conversation, he would condemn their property. On that assumption,
Frank,
what's your...
Frank, we're not going to...
How the hell are you going to get to the bottom of this crap? If you people would have listened to yourself here speaking tonight, you need to look in the mirror. The HARB, there's nothing wrong with the rules in the HARB. The HARB worked. You needed to go to the meetings, which I've seen some of you there at different times, and see how they were run. The frustrations they had with the borough, with
And Frank, we're working through it with them.
Do you not want to hear it?
But I'm not going to let you stand here and attack staff.
Do you not want to hear it? Why even ask us to come here if you don't want to hear it? You know what happened when the vote was taken. One of the council persons, because the guy spent a lot of money. Oh, he should be able to do what he wants to do. How in the hell are you going to make a good decision? How's council going to do that? The mayor, he voted against the HARP, never even give a reason. Come on, and you don't want to hear it.
I beg your pardon on that. I gave quite a bit of a reason. Read the minutes.
But anyway, right there was a good example. The frustrations they had with the people in the code running this, it was left go. You people, not all of you, most of you people just turn your heads, oh, that's okay, let him go ahead. This guy he's really fixing the town up. He can do whatever he wants to do. That's bullshit. How are you going to make a fair decision? I sit here and listen to you. The excuses you come up with. When I said one of you ought to be in jail, I think a couple of you ought to be in jail. Holy Christ. So now, where does it stand, Mark? You're going to get outside people. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you right. I think you had the mask on at the time. You're going to get outside people to hear these cases?
No. Borough Council is going to hear the cases until such time as we reconstitute the HARB board.
Where's council going to get the experience that a HARB should have?
Well, that's really not the question. The fact is that the HARB board serves at the pleasure of council. Council, and we talked about this in the beginning under the enabling legislation, The structure of a historic architecture review board was set up so that the final decision would always remain with the elected officials. That's how the state wrote the law. So most communities, their harbor board only makes a recommendation, and then the final decision comes to the elected officials and they say yes or no. That's the way the system is supposed to work. That's standard operating procedure for these boards.
Are you hiring an interim consultant?
So I have reached out to the PHMC to see if we can find another interim consultant to come in and help us with the technical review of these things. The 8 that we have coming before the council on the 21st have already been reviewed by Suzanne and were queued up for the last meeting that didn't happen.
Right.
And-
So
and
we have all the technical stuff.
Some of it. I want to say, I think that all of it, there may have been 1 or 2 out. Don't quote me on exactly all 8 of them. But we will have a good review for the next bunch until such time as the new hard board is in place.
And I mean, Frank, I can't speak for everyone else, but I can tell you that, you know, I take this serious, that it's our job to administer this code. And I've been doing a heck of a lot of research trying to figure out exactly, you know, what I'm supposed to be administering. So, I mean, we're trying. We're really trying.
Well, I would have never stood up here had I not attended most of the harbor board meetings. Many a time I've seen applicants come there and leave far better off when they come to the meeting. They give them places to go for the materials, they talk about the materials, they got a better material. Very, very happy with what went on. It's not all complaints, and they have a right to come before, I'm going to say, a learned council to make that decision. Did they make a mistake or didn't they? There's nothing wrong with the rules. The ordinance, it's the first I ever went over it. When I got it in the packet, I'm dumb to that. But these people, there was a lot of experience there, and they did their job. It's just that some members of council didn't do their job. Thank you.
All right. So we finished that one. Next, Borough Council comments. Does anyone have anything?
I do.
All right.
I just want to remind everyone about the Halloween event on the 31st at Locust Street Park from 6 to 8. We've had a new development. The wonderful people at Hinkle's have offered to donate hot dogs, cider, and they will come and provide those things. And we're really, really grateful for that. It's a very generous offer. And so everyone come.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I have a story. Can I tell a story?
Sure.
Share a story?
Sure.
Movies in the park at the crossings. When did that happen? That was maybe a few weeks back.
Yeah, about a month back.
A friend of mine, he owns a mobile pizza joint, oven baked pizza. It's called Feather Pizza Company. Young startup, good guy. He called me at the last minute and said, "Hey man, I'm down here in Columbia doing pizza. Come on down." And I came down and had a slice of pizza, wrapping up the movie, and he shared an interesting story with me. He said, "Man, I love Columbia. Columbia's awesome." He said, "You know, when I rolled in here with my truck and my oven, that guy over there, he came over to me and he said, 'Hi, I'm Jack Gamby and I love Columbia.'" And he shook his hand as hard as he could. And he said, "I was really impressed by that." He said, "You know, I want to move here. Columbia is a cool town. If there's people like that in Columbia, I want to move here." And it got me thinking, you know, what is the first impression I leave behind when I meet people who are first coming to Columbia, who are maybe watching a live stream or hearing what I'm saying on social media or Facebook, or what I'm saying out in public and not knowing who's potentially listening. We do come from a good town, and we're all part of it. We're the reason it's really good. So thought that was a cool story. Let's all go out and love Columbia. Let's tell everybody how much we do love it. So.
Thanks.
All right. Anyone else? All right. I have an announcement. We received a flyer from PennDOT. They are starting up with the public information sessions on the 462 Bridge project. However, rather than doing them in person, they're going to be virtual. There is a flyer we'll be posting on the Borough website. The PennDOT says that the public will be able to, they invite the public to view plans display to be held online only for the future Route 462 Veterans Memorial Bridge Rehabilitation Project and its other area enhancements. Information including an overview video, project displays, and methods to provide comment will be available to be viewed beginning October 13th, 2020 on the project website on PennDOT. So we'll put this up on the Borough website so that you can see the link and figure out where to go, and so everyone can go and see that information there. And because someone mentioned it earlier, Election Day, just wanted to let you know, there was someone came to me with a question about the polling places to make sure they were the same. There is a change, there's going to be a change in Columbia for the 5th Ward. That's the one that originally for a long time had voted at St. Peter's Apartments. For the primary, it had voted at Park School because school was not in session. There is a meeting this week where they will be voting on another change of venue for that. So if you are in the 5th Ward, please look for a new voter registration card to be mailed to you sometime, after next week. That will give you the new polling location. And once we have confirmation of what that polling location will be, talk to Teresa. She's already put together a thing to put up on the Borough website just to remind everyone where those polling locations are for November. And I think that is it. Announcement of next meeting at 6 p.m. on October 13th. Council will hold an executive session to discuss the purchase of the McGinnis property and also to discuss the police union grievance. Following that, there will be an information session to receive information-only items from its borough manager and solicitor prior to the regularly scheduled meeting at 7 p.m. The budget meeting scheduled for October 15th is canceled. We did the review that we would be doing on the 15th. We did that tonight. Do I have a motion to adjourn? And a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Councilperson Kaufman, a second by Councilperson Linder, to adjourn the meeting at 8:30 p.m. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? And that's a wrap, folks.
I didn't recognize you. I said it.